All right. Can you guys hear me?
You're.
Yeah.
Yep, we're good.
I think you. The last thing I heard, you were talking about what's realistically going to happen with Trump.
Okay. Part two. Yeah. So,
and then you got
so realistically, what I think is going to happen, he's going to go on and on about his stuff. He's going to be the same guy. He's going to do some crazy stuff. But the worst part of him is, yeah, he's going to violate norms, but it's not going to happen all at once, in my opinion. It's not going to be like America
won't be day one.
Authoritarianism. It's going to be he's going to incite anger across the various political groups.
He does that every fucking day. Jeez.
he just has more, he has a bigger audience when he's
bigger megaphone,
and he has more influence. And so that's what I think. I also think that he is. So Chuck, I just want you to know, I share your antipathy towards the UN, especially in light of Israel and Palestine and all that kind of stuff. You know how strongly I feel about that. And I think the UN has acted they've been just dishonest about it and not in any way objective. And it's gross. It's gross because they're the representative international body. And they're just feeding that, jihad right now. However, on the other side of that, I do think that we do have alliances that are necessary to maintain. And I think what Trump does is, and I'm not sure why he does it. And people speculate on, these conspiracy theories about how he, has a secret relationship with Russia and whatever. I don't think any of that's true. I think he is just, I think on some sort of level, well, first of all, I think he's kind of ostracized from all the other world leaders. Like, they don't really like him in Europe.
Yeah, really.
And so people like Putin will kind of give him a seat at the table, and Erdogan or whatever his name is in Turkey, and Duarte and Philippines, people like that. And he can sort of relate on some level, and they like him and probably say nice things to him because it makes him feel good. And then
he's a narcissist.
It feeds his vanity and all that kind of stuff.
That's all you have to do. I mean, he's a simple creature. If you feed his ego, you get favors.
Which is kind of not a great thing when you're the president of the most powerful military on the planet.
Actually, a terrible thing, yes.
Right. So, and that's the thing, is that Trump is just so easily manipulated, with that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a huge thing. The thing that he said to Putin about essentially giving him the rhetorical green light to invade any European country he wants, unless the European countries pay some whatever subjective amount of money, or maybe it's not subjective. I don't disagree that they should pay money. I don't disagree we should be assertive. I don't disagree that we should say, pay what you fucking owe us, right? We're not whatever. I agree with all of that stuff. But there's a way to approach that. And Trump, even if he has the right idea about a lot of stuff, doesn't have the tact for it.
That goes back to the leadership question, Nick, just what I said earlier. I mean, again, above all things, a president is supposed to be a leader. They've set policy, of course, but again, above all things, they have to be a leader. And when you have a leader that you do not respect, a leader that you sometimes you don't think they're in their right mind, then it is very hard to get the work of the presidency done, because so much of it relies on your leadership skills, and he falls woefully short in that area. Yes, I know he'll throw a mean tweet out there, and he makes all the right people angry in some cases. I get that. I understand. There is I understand the appeal of that, but that's your hatchet man. That's your pit bull, attack dog. That's not your fucking leader. That's not the kind of guy you elect. Yeah, you hire James Carville to run your campaign. You don't hire James Carville to be your campaign or to be the person you vote for. They're an attack dog. They're an ideologue. They are the ones that the hatchet man. You don't elect them. No, that this is the person you put out there in front of a microphone to stir the masses. The person that you choose to lead has to be a leader to all people, to all 332 million of us, not just half of us. And way short.
There is flaws on both sides on that issue.
Oh, sure.
But Trump is the epitome of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember back in the 70s with the TV going every once in a while to be United We Stand, Divided We Fall, playing on stuff, happy, feel good stuff. But
you remember
that's
that
the
era
reality
too,
of, that's the reality is that you have to pull the country together as a leader, even if half the country isn't going to be happy with some of the things you're going to. I think all Americans and all Canadians and all everyone else, they want a job and a house and education and healthcare and defense and roads, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that they want. And for the amount of vitriol that we throw at each other over some of the areas we disagree with, people are, they're demonizing each other. The left demonizes the right. They're calling them Nazis.
The left demonizes the left. And the right demonizes the right.
Well, oddly enough, Daryl, you make a great...
And the right demonizes the left.
Sure.
And
I'm sorry, I'm getting...
you have to stop this.
Daryl, I think Daryl's having some bandwidth issues. It's freezing up a little bit. But you made a good point, Daryl, insofar as, president's supposed to be president for everybody. And that feeling, justified or not, that many people on the right had for, a couple of generations where the presidency or the government in general did not particularly like them. If you were told that, your ancestors are responsible for all the bad things we're doing today, that created Trump. That Trump does not.
Oh yeah.
Not for that. And again, you can say that that's you're out of your mind. That's not true. But perception is reality, and they, fairly or not, saw government in the aggregate as being somewhat hostile towards them, as thinking that because of their religious affiliation, class where they lived, that they were somehow tangentially responsible for all the bad things. That wears on your ass. And that created Trump. It created Fox News.
Oh, yeah.
Again.
That's absolutely true. You can teach your history, but you just can't teach the bad parts of the history. You have to talk. history is complicated.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
So
there's...
I think that's a good point, Chuck. I think, when we say Trump is divisive, I think it's sort of self-explanatory and it's hard to argue against. I think what the right would say is, well, so is Biden, so is Clinton, so is Obama, right? Hillary Clinton in this case, right? With, comments about deplorables, and Biden made some sort of comment more recently. What I would say is what I say whenever people make comparisons, whether it's about lies, whether it's about division, whether it's about recklessness, whether it's about whatever, is that what Trump represents is an exacerbation and an acceleration of it. And to me, in other words, he is even though these people have been doing this has become a part of our political sphere, and maybe, responsible to some extent, like you said, Chuck, for kind of, inciting some of the rage on the right that elected Trump and wanted that type of person in the office. He's not the person who fixes it. He's the person who makes it worse.
That's exactly right. That's perfect. Yeah. What you just said is exactly what we've been saying since you hit the on switch here.
Yeah. And
everyone worse.
He doesn't, clean out the swamp. He refills it with alligators or more. And so, so basically what I see is, Biden is kind of old and a Democrat, and he says things and does things I often don't like, and I would have much rather have seen Nikki Haley or somebody else in there. But the right wing had an opportunity in this primary to put somebody else there, and there is, to me, there is no argument out there that they can possibly use to justify their support for Trump, because It takes away the argument for the justices because they're going to appoint conservative justices, maybe better ones, right? It takes away all the argument for the fear of the left because they're not going to, obviously, they may not do everything that people want, but they're not going to do progressivist things, right?
No.
They're going to do what Republicans want to do and probably do the exact same policies, if not more, than Trump. Trump was a huge spender. For all the things that Republicans said about spending, Trump spent a gazillion amount, trillions of whatever dollars. Right?
He was not shy with the purse strings, yeah.
Yeah, it was right up there with Obama.
He
virtually no difference.
He doubled the deficit before COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before the first case was diagnosed, we were, national debt was growing and growing and growing. And I think the best thing I read, and I wish I could remember who said it. They called Trump, and I like the way they worded this. Trump is nothing more than a cipher into which people are pouring in many cases, their emotions, their hope, their frustration, most certainly. It was true in 2016, and God bless it, I think that if they don't prosecute him, that one of those other Republicans might have stood a damn chance against him this year. But it is like into legal trouble he gets. You look, God damn it, the numbers go up every day. Every time there's another indictment or a statement by Letitia James, his polling goes up. Jesus, it is an amazing thing. Again,
right. So
personally, I mean, go ahead.
I wish that Republican politicians would actually just stand up for Republican values and denounce Trump. But they keep convincing.
Yeah, that's it. Just at their own peril.
They keep pushing the narrative to Republican voters that, oh no, it really is a big conspiracy against Trump, instead of going, no, this looks really bad. I mean, I think he really did at least some of these things. There might have been there might have been one case that is like, okay, that's a witch hunt, but the rest of them, I mean, he did this, and it's not good. And if they all had just stood up and said that, it would have had a different.
I wish one of them at one of these debates would have pointed at Trump, said, this son of a bitch is going to be indicted or in jail by the time November 2024 rolls around. Why the hell are you considering nominating him?
Putting him on the primary list.
Clear electability.
Who are you going to vote for if he ends up in jail?
Electability clearly wasn't an issue, right? Because Nikki Haley against Biden was up by like 10 to 20 points in polls.
Yeah.
Trump is either 2 points ahead, 2 points behind, but it's neck and neck.
Yeah.
So the polling for the other candidates against Biden,
and that's with a low national name recognition. I mean, in our circles we know who Nikki Haley is, but beyond the chattering class, which we are, there's very low name recognition there. But yeah, it's been uncanny. If you follow the legal battles, every time there is movement in a Trump case, his polling goes up. It is the most remarkable thing. It is like an anti-death beam. Every time you shoot him, he gets stronger. It's wild.
Yeah, I wonder.
We're only lived by putting this guy in power.
Mm-hmm.
We are.
It's a big fuck you to the left. We're going to put this guy in power just because you hate him so much, and it doesn't matter if we shoot ourselves in the foot to do it.
You're right.
It's an underdog thing.
It's wild. I mean,
I think a lot of the working class in the conservatives feel the underdog thing, even though Trump isn't really for the underdog. He'll screw you over in a second. If it earns him $1, he'll $60 for a Bible. You can afford that, can't you? It's the same King James Bible sitting beside your nightstand now, but you want to give me $60 for it.
This is a special Bible. This one was written. This is written in the language that Jesus himself spoke.
Yes. So what do you guys think about that? So
Go ahead.
the court cases themselves. So I read about them today, kind of giving myself a refresher. The Bragg case in New York with the hush money and stuff, really weak case.
That's
And I think so. One of the things I think happened that gave him a little bit of momentum, and I think you're spot on with this, is Alvin Bragg brings 34 felony charges to against Trump for something that he did wrong. I think if you look at it, it was wrong, but the charges are, no pun intended, trumped up, right? And over exaggerated. So when you have all these court cases and you start off with the absolute worst one in the public
That's
eye,
the thing, Nick. Yeah, because that was the first one.
right?
If they had led chronologically, I think if the Georgia case had come up first, to me, the Georgia case is among all of them the only one that really should be prosecuted, quite frankly. And of course, they had to
You mean the
assign.
Florida case?
Yeah, I'm talking about Georgia, the Secretary
Oh.
of State, the election interference charges, the one that Fannie Willis has been prosecuting, and of course she's had her own issues. Yeah, the one in because they led with the Bragg prosecution, which was the thinnest of thin gruel in terms of there being a crime and a victim. It made it look to a lot of people who were probably predisposed in favor of Trump anyway, but it confirmed a lot of their biases that, this is a witch hunt and they're going after him. And yeah, that was specious as hell. I mean, the whole thing. The Letitia James case, which you and I have been discussing and back and forth in an email, has confused the hell out of me, quite frankly. I did not follow and have not followed the court of the case to any significant degree. But one of the foundational facts that supports the prosecution's case is the value of Mar-a-Lago, which they insist was 18 million, no more than 20 million. But once they imposed the bond at 475 million, and Trump was having trouble, scraping that up, the court official said, "Well, Mar-a-Lago is worth 230 million. You could get that for that." Wait a minute, God damn it! Didn't you just say it was worth less than 20 million? And now, you're told about the difference between assessed value and actual value, which I understand. There's the difference there. The value of your home is determined by what people will pay for it, not by what a tax assessor says. But the tax assessor has to say something based upon the data that's available.
It's too convoluted for anybody to get.
But that is such a chasm, though. Your case depended on the assumption, your legal assumption, that Mar-a-Lago's value is $18-20 million and not 200 million. But as he's trying to meet your bond, you seem to think he can get 200 million for it. So which the fuck is it? I mean, when things like that come out and it's just that much of people ask questions, and they should, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, what I had seen that there was 200 properties that he had overvalued. Was it 200? It was like 200 properties.
200. Well, not just properties, but non-liquid assets.
Transactions.
Yeah. But
and other things it wasn't just like one.
Right. Mar-a-Lago was the most conspicuous, I guess. Yeah.
Mar-a-Lago might have been one of the bigger ones. I don't remember who exactly said that it was actually worth 200 million in the bond. Was that some talking head, or was it actually?
No, that was one of the. I don't know if it was in the AG's office, but it was in one of the assessor's offices within that jurisdiction that was examining Trump holdings and looking at his possible liquidation of some to meet the bond. Somebody in our group posted a pretty good idea too, or pretty good thought I saw. And so far as the idea behind a bond is, the bond itself is not supposed to be the punishment. That's not supposed to be the fine that's levied for doing something wrong. That's different. The bond is supposed to be assurance that you're not going to skip town, skip country, or whatever. Bond is not considered to be a punitive thing. Now, when there's a
I think there's two different cases here.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the memes going around was that Bernie Madoff had a $10 million bond, but that was you're charged criminally, and I'm not going to skip town.
Right.
For civil cases, I believe the bond is the full amount of the judgment.
But in this case,
before you appeal.
Yeah. To appeal, he has to post what's called an appeal bond, and I'm guessing this is a New York State thing. In New York, that appeal bond is set at the amount of the fine, so which seems to sort of defeat the purpose of an appeal bond in and of itself.
Well, because it's the same as bond. When you post a $10 million bond, you don't actually have to come up with $10 million. You have to come up with some amount to pay the bail bondsman, right? And it's the same with the Trump only had to come up with a certain amount of money. And from what I had heard from some other legal channel talking about why this is they knocked it down to 175, was that perhaps the appellate court thinks that there was some of the transactions were beyond the statute of limitations, and 175 may be more closer.
Well, that gets into his innocence or guilt, and that's for the court to decide. I mean,
no, that's not innocence or guilt. They're saying well, I mean, this was just one legal analyst was saying. They're saying, yeah, he was guilty, but some of the things he was guilty of, the transactions were beyond the statute of limitations, so you can't ding him for those.
Well, I mean, that's
right.
It should have been decided. Anyway, like it seems to me that is a determination that would be made at the court level, not at the clerical level. But anyway, like I said, I'm
no. Pretend. This was someone interpreting what the appellate drop was, because why drop it? He has the money to cover it.
Okay.
Right. He has the money to cover it. He could have found the money. He has ways to borrow money. He could have came up with the full amount. Right. And either they were saying, okay, maybe it looks bad, or maybe they think there may be some of this is actually too high, and we may come up with a lower number, or maybe they think that 175 million, okay, that's posted by a bond. If he loses the appeal, we can collect that immediately. Whereas if he posts nothing, it may take 3 or 4 years to in court to get anything.
So when you get lost,
there are reasons
in the this kind of intricate detail, people lose interest, and that's what happens to these cases. They're like, I can't tell the difference between one case from another. I don't know what the hell's going on, and that's when you kind of pivot back to retreat back to whatever your bias was before. Oh, well, it must be Trump is just a part of a scheme. I wanted to ask you, Chuck, so you said you thought that Georgia was a legitimate case. I agree with you. I think it's one of the stronger cases. I actually think Florida is stronger. And that's why I thought you were talking about Florida, because I thought it was the strongest case. But in Florida, I mean, the big deal is, so Trump didn't just have classified documents. He had classified documents. The FBI found out. They talked to him. He wouldn't cooperate at first.
Right.
Then he cooperated, but didn't give him all of it. Then he lied about it.
Yeah.
About having more.
Right.
And then when they found out what he had, it wasn't like Biden. Biden had some notes. He had a letter he wrote to Obama about pulling troops out of Afghanistan. There was some top secret stuff, but it wasn't nuclear stuff.
Right.
Trump had nuclear weapon documents.
Yeah.
About the United States and about other countries. And he was showing them to people who didn't have security clearance and then lying to the FBI about having them at all.
Well, I love that. I love the transcript that the FBI shared from I think it was from the Truebill, the indictment, that had Trump just showing it off to a couple of guys at a party that he had down there. Look at this. Can you believe this? I've got this. The fuck are you doing? And the whole thing, and this is just so quintessentially Trump, the only purpose that it served was to feed that massive ego of his. He can brag to his friends, look what I got. This is, these are the plans of Israel's nuclear reactor or whatever. Just for nothing more than his own vanity. It was not going to be any strategic advantage, not that I could tell anyway. It seems that one of the primary reasons he took those was to be able to brag and show to his friends and
But on
just
top of
to
that,
satisfy his vanity.
on top of him being insane, right, and narcissistic, think about his defense. His defense for that is that he has the presidential power to do it.
Right.
Except
Right.
he lied. So
Yeah.
why would you lie if you thought you had the power to do it? You would
Because
just
he
tell
didn't.
them, yeah, I took it.
Yeah,
Right?
what's your point? I'm the president, right? And
It's
that's supposed to be
contradictory
okay?
defense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I do think that has some merit, although I get a lot of my information on these legal cases from Advisory Opinions. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I know
David
what you're talking about.
French.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Sarah Isgur. Sarah Isgur was actually like the assistant justice.
Well, French had 20 years as a federal
Oh yeah,
litigator.
ton of experience, conservative stuff. And
Right.
then Sarah Isgur worked in the Justice Department at
Mhm.
Trump during the Russian investigation.
Right.
Actually, she was she had left while he was in office, and then she went to the dispatch. But they
Right.
do a great legal podcast. They get into the very intricate details of everything, and they seem to think that everything's kind of coming apart, and that essentially the based on what I understand, and I only listed a portion of it, the judge in the Florida case has made some really bizarre decisions that they feel like are sort of not in the favor of prosecution in that case.
Okay.
But I just kind of want to go back to the more general question here. So there's a sort of like a larger question for people on the center right. And that question has to do with whether or not the trade-off for Trump is worth it, right? I get into these conversations with people. And this is so, I don't want to name names. We all know who the culprits are in the group. And they come to me and they twist themselves up and contort themselves and make these sort of justifications for Trump's behavior. And it's like, to me, it's a way of them making it easier for them psychologically. And I don't think this is my own personal, and I'm reading into it and speculating. They're sort of convincing themselves on a psychological level to be able to ethically and justly vote for Trump. And it is some of the most infuriating conversations I've had, because the arguments to me are so ridiculous. It's either, what about this other guy? He's not that bad. They minimize what he does, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
All I'm saying is that when you pile everything onto itself, on top of each other, his sexual assault cases, his tax issues, his money issues, his just blatant disregard for law, and his entire career, his behavior, and for me, the worst thing, the pinnacle of all of it, is the election denial, which was absolutely unforgivable. And I just want to make a quick distinction here. So for me, all of these other conversations become irrelevant if you just talk about that one thing, because that was outside, in my opinion, that's why I asked you about the constitutional question before with Biden. That was outside the scope of constitutional violations that I have ever experienced in my lifetime. And though I vehemently agree, and I sympathize with your feelings towards people like Biden and other presidents, Republican and Democrat, for exceeding their limits of power. That to me was worse. And it was also worse, we've got 10 minutes left, and it was also worse than anything that I had seen from any other president or presidential candidate in my lifetime. And the reason is because it wasn't just Hillary Clinton making a comment about the Russia investigation a couple times, or saying sort of that she might not concede, or whatever it was, right? It wasn't the year 2000, George Bush and Al Gore. It wasn't, it wasn't them that, saying that we shouldn't concede that election. It was a relentless and completely obsessive, endeavor, right, to undermine the constitutional process in the most blatant and dishonest ways imaginable. And to me, that goes above and beyond anything. I mean, he went to Nevada, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and he in every single one of those states, either him or one of his lackeys that he supported, created some or formulated some sort of intricate conspiracy that, again, was convoluted and hard to understand. And, the regular average Joe isn't going to kind of delve into the numbers. And the people who are, a lot of times, are conspiratorial. They don't understand what they're reading, so they'll believe whatever they see, right? Or to throw enough shade on everything to make it seem as if it's, something nefarious is going on. When at the end of the day, his judges, left-wing judges, Supreme Court state judges, every single person denied it. There was nothing. His own administration said it was a safe election. And for me, he still continues to push this thing.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned, and Nick, you've mentioned that you've read it before, my breakdown of what happens at just one polling place in terms of the checks and balances and redundancy of information. That's just at one polling place, and they have the same mechanisms at every polling place to successfully hijack something as decentralized as a presidential election. You literally have to have 100,000 or more people in on the fix. They have to be working.
It would be almost impossible to not be seen.
I've asked people this. Okay, let's say everything you're saying is true. Just tell me how it happened. Tell me how from where the ballots are distributed to where they're sent out to people to where they're marked, where they're checked.
But this is where the arguments shift.
35,000.
So what happens? So Darryl, what happens at that point is they'll do this. I'll tell you exactly what they do. They'll pivot to Pennsylvania, and they'll say, well, the legislature there passed legislation during COVID that was unconstitutional based on the wording in their own constitution. Well, okay, but if you read what happened in that state, the legislature who passed the legislation they're talking about were the same people who challenged their own legislation after it worked outside of their favor.
Yeah.
And then it was struck down by the Supreme Court because they did it after the election and not before it.
Yeah, you can't change the rules after the election.
Yeah, just very quickly, I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, everyone agrees on the rules.
Yeah. Talking about the sacredness with which we in the U.S. hold our electoral process, just to show you how we have changed within a generation. In 2000, the Bush-Gore election, we know how that ended up with Florida, 129 votes or whatever. The final vote count was 271 to 269. That's been 24 years ago. At the time, somebody came up with the idea in one of these groups I was in, pre-Facebook, who said, if we get 2 of the electors to change their minds, then it's President Al Gore. But Democrats, not Republicans, Democrats shot that idea down as being just so fucking unethical as to not even be, are you kidding me? That would undermine our entire system. Screw you, we're not going to do that. 16 years later, Trump beats Clinton. And there were people who were actively trying to get electors to, if they did not vote for, not to vote for Hillary, but just don't vote for Trump. Try to keep Trump out. And then 4 years after that, we have someone who is absolutely trying to undermine the entire process. So in the span of 24 years, we go from this sacred cow that you can't touch to no fucking holds barred, mob rule, go get them.
No, so I 100% agree with that. That was the evolution of the process, and the Democrats have a lot to answer for their behavior in many ways.
Everybody does, yeah.
Yeah, but what I'd say to it, and this is the same thing that I say for everything else when it comes to him, is he took a situation that was bad, where you had a lot of extreme voices on the left saying
made it worse.
things.
Where have I heard that?
But he exacerbated it to a point where it was significant. He exacerbated that evolution. That's what he does. He's worse. That's the point, right? And so,
removing faith in the elections it's bad for the country for both sides.
Bad for everybody.
In long term.
Yeah.
It's bad for everyone. Because if you can't trust who's in power, everything, I mean, riot. You know, I mean,
We're gonna turn off
and we demonize
in
the
4
other side.
minutes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I think you have 2 old people in power, and on the if you're looking at a risk cost, but what's the risk on the if Biden becomes Gaga, the people who are going to take over are or kind of prop him up are basically going to do the status quo, and half the country's not going to like it. On the other hand, you're almost better off if Trump goes Gaga and someone else steps in and makes some decent decisions.
Yeah.
At least you wouldn't have someone actively trying to, like, as you said, it's someone that would actually have to lead and wouldn't be trying to set the country at each other's throats, where we're going to demonize each other. You got to bring people together, and
I don't
Jonathan,
think Biden or Trump are particularly concerned with bringing people together, nor do I think they're able to. But what I will say is this, again, Trump is actively working all the time to divide people. Biden isn't. Biden may say things or
Yes.
may make comments once in a while that are divisive, or that are a lot of the time
he
not necessarily.
actually does make comments. He actually does make some comments to reach out and bring things. He's not good at it, but he's not actively trying to destroy.
Yeah, he's not particularly articulate.
Even people on his own side. They comment like anyone who supported Nikki Haley is just. It's like, I mean, Nikki Haley lost the election basically because she said, "Oh, I don't need McCain Republicans." Yeah, you do.
Carrie Lake.
In Racerton Margerson's,
Yeah.
Sorry, Carrie Lake. Who did I say?
Yeah, you said
I meant Carrie Lake.
You said Nikki Haley.
Yeah, but yeah, she. Sorry, I meant Carrie Lake. I don't need these people. But Trump said, "Oh, if you voted for Nikki Haley, don't come to me if you donated money to Nikki Haley." Trump said that. It's like you're not just trying to piss off Democrats. You're going. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of people. I mean, the elections are won by like 1%.
Right.
You just have to piss off 1 or 2% of Republicans, and you're done.
If enough of them stay at home, then all the ballot conspiracies in the world won't make a damn bit of difference.
We go 1 minute, and I just want to say thank you guys for coming. And I hope this podcast, because I know some of the people in our group are going to watch it. I hope this clarifies some of my positions. I can't, for the rest of my life, go through these conversations. I can't have them. So when you guys try to bombard me with questions, I'm not saying I don't want to talk to you because I hate you or don't have an opinion on it. I just can't do it anymore. You know what my opinion is. This is it. So refer to this. All right, guys. I appreciate everybody coming down. Sorry about the mix-up with the Zoom. Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, Chuck.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep.